on Prime Crime.
Nikki, calm down for me, okay? Nikki.
A 911 call leads to a tangled web of stories.
There's somebody else in the house.
To solve a man's untimely death.
Most shotgun wounds are not survivable on the first shot, let alone the second shot.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we break down the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. In early 2020, police are called to what seems like a typical house fire. But what they discover is that, like in many of the cases we cover, things aren't always exactly what they seem to be.
Central Dakota Communications, how can I help you?
I'm calling to see if you guys could do a welfare check on one of our employees.
Sure. And the name?
Chad Entzel.
It's January 2nd, 2020 in Bismarck, North Dakota. 42-year-old Chad Entzel hasn't been heard from in a couple of days.
Some coworkers had actually went out there that day, saw Chad's pickup in the driveway, knocked on the door, and nobody answered.
When police arrive at the home, there's nothing out of the ordinary, especially since officers couldn't really see inside the house from outside. However, hours later, another 911 call comes in. This time, it's from a frantic Nikki Sue Entzel, Chad's wife.
I came out here to check. I walked in the house, it's smoky. I can't get in the door. Everything is black. I want to go in and check.
Slow. Hey, Nikki, calm down for me, okay?
Nikki went out there on January 2nd. That's when she called 911 saying that there had been a fire in the home.
When help does arrive, unfortunately, it's already too late. Chad Entzel is found dead in the master bedroom of the home.
The bedroom that Chad had been found in had significant fire damage.
When they came upon Chad's body, he was naked and there was a shotgun not far from him.
Fast forward to a few days later when an investigator visits the home with Nikki.
Is it okay if I go in with you?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to leave you alone. He was in the back bedroom, in the master bedroom, so I'm just going to warn you, okay? Are you still okay? Are you okay? I'm trying to figure it out.
While at the Entzel residence with Nikki, Sergeant Silbernagel actually had to step away for a minute to take a phone call.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to step out.
He was told that Chad had been shot twice with a shotgun.
There's so many things that point to this not being a suicide. He had been shot once in the shoulder and then the second time in the head. Most shotgun wounds are not survivable on the first shot, let alone the second shot. Also, Chad had no evidence of inhaling smoke into his lungs.
And authorities find something else that's suspicious.
They found 2 points of origin of the fire. One was upstairs, one was downstairs.
There was a propane heater that had been sitting on the floor in the bedroom. It had been tipped over. There was a lot of evidence of a fire in the furnace and some debris around the furnace. One of the things that we found was part of the cardboard of a pack of Marlboro cigarettes. Well, neither Chad or Nikki smoked.
Who would want to kill Chad Entzel? Authorities need to make sense of his death, and that's when they sit down with Nikki in the hope she can provide some insight into her husband.
He's gone out of home at least 5, if not 6 nights a week, sometimes more. He started drinking more. He just got so bad when he drank.
She said he was an alcoholic, he drank all the time, and that he was both physically and verbally abusive.
That's how it started. We started by grabbing him.
He squeezed me so hard.
Keep in mind, Nikki never reported any abuse to the police.
Did you ever go to a doctor or anything?
They just kept telling me about.
At one point in the interview, Sergeant Silbernagel changes course and lays his cards on the table.
Chad's death was not an accident.
What? Mm-hmm.
Nikki, Chad was killed. Chad was murdered. It's not a suicide. I don't know, Nikki, but that's what I want to find out. So why would that happen to Chad?
I don't know.
Is Nikki holding something back? When we return, this case is about to get a whole lot more complicated.
It was kind of something that caught me off guard, that she was even going to throw something like that out there.
Nikki, did you have anything to do with Chad's death?
No! That's a terrible thing to do.
Just after New Year's in 2020, authorities in Bismarck, North Dakota are investigating a possible suicide and suspected accidental fire at the home of 42-year-old Chad Entzel when he was found dead in a back bedroom in the home he shared with his wife, 39-year-old Nikki Sue Entzel. However, it soon becomes clear Chad didn't kill himself. Investigators hope Nikki can shed some light on what happened, and they're curious about another man in Nikki's life.
So you just came out?
My friend came out with me.
When we were watching the videos and reviewing the videos, Nikki did show up at the house in a white pickup with an unknown male. At the time, we didn't know who that was. It was only a little bit later on that it was actually determined that that was Earl Howard.
Were you guys romantically involved or anything? No? Okay, so you weren't boyfriend or girlfriend or anything?
No. I'm married. He's married.
She said that she ran a catering business out of her home and that Earl just happened to order some sort of food from her business one day, and after that they became friends.
Did you tell Earl about the abuse or anything like that?
He saw the bruise marks, a couple times, but he just said, I wish you guys the best.
Did he ever seem angry by it?
No.
And Nikki reveals something else, that at the time of Chad's death, she wasn't even living in the home with him.
Prior to Chad Entzel being killed, Nikki had made several reports indicating that there was something wrong with the furnace.
Because the furnace wasn't working, it was winter time, she had told Chad that she was just gonna stay at the hotel.
Yet it wasn't just where she was staying that's important, but who she was with.
Nikki, where did you go after you came there when Chad was at bowling?
We went back to the hotel.
Who's we?
Earl. He's, super nice person. He thinks that, I'm super beautiful and I miss him when he's not around. And, I like it. I can tell him I love him.
Nikki denies to law enforcement that they had any type of intimate relationship, but surveillance footage shows them being at least one point intimate, kissing each other.
Nikki is not providing a clear picture of what happened, and that's when investigators make a change.
I just, at that point, had decided that it's probably time having me go in there and see if I can make some headway out of this.
This is Joe Aarons.
Hi.
He's with Bureau of Criminal Investigations.
No, I have to go soon.
Chad was in a bowling league. December 30th, 2019, Chad had left in the early evening to go to the bowling alley. During that time, Nikki came to the residence. She initially denied that she had been out there at that time until I confronted her.
I know you've been talking to him and told him some things. Some of that I can tell you right now is not true. Tell me what happened when you guys were out there. It's on video.
There's several entries into the home, but what's interesting is that the security cameras are actually set to privacy mode, which is really only something that Nikki Sue could have done.
There was information that she didn't know we knew, such as the camera system actually recording when she thought she had disabled the recording function on it.
Nikki and Earl visit the home several times that night. But why?
I wanted to get my meds.
But you said that you keep your meds in your purse.
I know, but I'm leaving my meds.
She said that the first time when she was there with Earl while Chad was at the bowling alley, it was just to get some things because she wasn't going to be staying there. Chad got home, before midnight. About 1 a.m. on December 31st, Nikki and Earl went back out to the residence.
Chad was there at that point.
Chad was up drinking.
You guys were there for an hour and 40 minutes. You didn't look for your patches for an hour and 40 minutes while Chad sat there drinking.
She said she couldn't find her medications, so she said she went back to the hotel. Then at 6:30 in the morning, she now realized that her medications would be in the bathroom. So then her and Earl went back out there, and she says that she snuck in to the house while Chad was sleeping and just went into the bathroom and got the medication.
And then what happened?
Went to the hotel.
And then what?
And got up and went to work.
Prior to me ever walking in there, she was lying about everything that she was saying.
You feel bad about what happened, don't you? What's happened to Chad?
Had nothing to do with what happened to Chad.
But you have a really good idea what happened.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Somebody killed Chad Entzel, but Nikki says it wasn't her.
I'm going to be straight up with you. I think it's in your best interest to just be honest with us about what you know.
Could it be someone else? Stay with us.
If you were in our shoes, what would you do?
Figure it out.
Figure it out? How am I supposed to do that? Do you want to help us figure this out?
I do. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
In early 2020, a North Dakota woman says she came home to find her house on fire with her husband dead inside. What police come to learn is that Chad Entzel had actually been shot to death, and the fire was likely an attempt to cover up the murder. Police narrow in on his wife, Nikki Sue Entzel, and the relationship she had with another man, Earl Howard. Officials believe the pair conspired to kill Chad together.
The more you lie, the more it makes you look like this monster about what happened that night.
However, Nikki claims she doesn't know what happened, even reverting back to investigators' original theory of suicide.
Tell me what went down that night.
We got into an argument. Chad said he goes, I'm gonna the dog. So I'm just done.
Then, Nikki shares something completely unexpected.
What happened, Nikki?
There was somebody else in the house.
Somebody what?
Somebody else in the house.
Why haven't you told me that?
The one I didn't have something in me. Oh, Chad, honey.
What did he look like?
I would say mid-40s. Spiked hair. No glasses. Very nice teeth. Super nice teeth. He smelled like crown.
She actually tried to draw a picture of this person, and it was essentially a stick figure with hair.
I can't get my head around this, that all of a sudden you tell me there's this new guy. That doesn't make sense to me.
After a couple minutes of that, she acknowledged that she had made that all up.
I'm gonna talk.
Tell me what it is you want to say.
I don't know what happened. I sat in the car. So go in the car.
Who's he?
No.
She finally admits that it was Earl Howard that was involved in terms of the death of her husband while she waited in the vehicle.
I said, what happened?
And what did Earl say?
It's not right.
The only evidence you have of Earl Howard actually being the one who pulled the trigger is Nikki saying that Earl Howard is the one that pulled the trigger.
It was weird every time the back window. They were arguing with the gun. And he said it went off. He said he didn't know the gun was off.
Who came back to set the fire?
Okay.
She tried to manipulate the security system. We know that Nikki was at the residence numerous times around the time that Chad was killed. Nikki really couldn't keep a straight story at all. When you took everything together, it was pretty clear that Nikki was very involved in this crime.
Nikki Sue Entzel is officially taken into custody. Both she and Earl face charges of conspiracy to commit murder, arson, and tampering with evidence. A couple days later, she reaches out to investigators to talk.
I told Earl, I said, I just want this to be done with. don't want to deal with this anymore. He sends a courage that beat women. I don't deserve to live.
What exactly is Earl's role in all of this? Up next, the final home stretch to learn the unsettling truth behind the death of Chad Entzel.
We don't have time to sit here and listen to the lies anymore. This is your last shot.
All I wanted was to get out. I just wanted to leave.
2020, Bismarck, North Dakota. An investigation into the staged suicide death of Chad Entzel led local authorities to unexpected suspects: his wife, Nikki Sue Entzel, and her new lover, Earl Howard. Officials theorized that Nikki and Earl conspired to kill the 42-year-old and set his house on fire. Nikki is arrested while officials begin the search for Earl. After she's taken into custody, she opens up a little bit more about what she says happened.
I said he caught me in dementia. I said he needed the house to burn down. Just needed the evidence.
We had the cigarette pack down by the furnace that was the same brand that Earl smokes and nobody else in the home smoked.
Who came up with this whole scenario?
Earl did.
They didn't have enough evidence to actually get that murder charge, but they had plenty of evidence on arson, evidence tampering, and then conspiracy to commit murder.
Earl is captured at the Canadian border. However, unlike Nikki, Earl Howard makes a life-changing choice.
Earl did eventually plead guilty to his charges, so he avoided a trial.
He got 25 years. He's up for parole maybe around 21 years.
Then, in September 2022, it was time for Nikki Sue Entzel to go on trial for conspiring to kill her husband and cover up his murder.
On the surface, it appears that it may be a suicide, but as they looked, things weren't adding up. The shotgun was a little too far away from the body. The fact that the propane heater accidentally set fire to a bed in that bedroom was too much of a coincidence.
The surveillance footage is probably one of the strongest parts of this case. One of the things that the video doesn't show, that Nikki attempted to shut off the surveillance at certain points. Why would someone who lived at that house want to shut off the video surveillance unless they were about to do something that they didn't want someone to see?
Prosecutors pointed to what they believed was her motive: money.
My name is Nikki Entzel, and I'm calling to get a quote for a renter's insurance.
She took out a renter's policy, and then she also had a life insurance that she was the beneficiary of. That was for about $600,000.
So the $20,000 in coverage for personal property also includes $4,000 for loss of use in case you're displaced from your home due to a covered claim, such as a fire.
It's never a good look for a suspect to take out any type of insurance policy only days before the person that you will eventually be accused of killing is then killed.
She immediately made calls upon his death to try to draw from those life insurance policies.
Our home caught on fire. My husband was in there.
You lost your husband, dear?
Yeah, in that house last night, they found him, the fireman did.
Entzel's attorney highlighted a glaring deficit in the prosecution's case.
What is the big piece missing in this particular case? His name's been mentioned not many times, but he's invisible.
The defense harped on one thing, that the jury had not heard from Earl Howard. Their position was, well, Earl Howard would know everything that happened. Earl Howard pled guilty. Why is he not in this courtroom?
Was there any mention of a plan or an agreement to kill Chad Entzel? You don't know what Earl would have said.
The case is handed over to the jury, and after 2 hours of deliberations, they came to a decision as to Nikki Sue Entzel's future.
As to the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant, Nikki Sue Melissa Entzel, guilty.
The case was so strong against Nikki that I would have actually been surprised had it not come out that way.
The loss of my son Chad is unbearable. It is a wound that will never heal. Your actions have forever fractured my family.
I decided this day is no longer a day of you. It is a day about my brother. This is the day we remember him and what a wonderful person he was.
Before learning her sentence, Nikki Sue Entzel had some final words.
Your Honor, I have been through all kinds of abuse. Now my boys have been through it. Nobody knows the loss I live every single day, not just with Chad, but with the loss of my boys.
To me, my decision is whether it's life or life without the possibility of parole. Anything else, I believe, would be a grave injustice.
Nikki Sue Entzel was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, but have all the questions to this story been answered?
Unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to know who the actual person is that pulled the trigger. And the reason we won't know that is because there's only 3 people that know.
I personally don't believe that Nikki Sue was the sole person who did this. I believe that she was the mastermind, but I actually think that it was probably Earl who pulled the trigger. That doesn't absolve Nikki Sue of any guilt. She's the one who put this kind of crime in motion.
We may never really know what exactly happened in that house on that cold December night. And there's apparently one person who would like to know what happened as well. Nikki Sue Entzel. That's right. In a media interview that aired only a few months before this recording, she acknowledged that her stories haven't always aligned, but she still denies her involvement in the crime. We'll see how that goes as her case currently moves through the appeals process. That's all we have for you here on Prime Crime, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, stay safe.